My name is Dr. Randall Steno, and I'm a radiologist, Houston Medical Imaging in Houston, Texas, in charge of innovative radiology, a group of about 15 radiologists. We work for a couple of hospitals, we have 3 freestanding imaging centers, and we have a pretty large teleradiology practice which comprises 37 independent sites. We're multi-specialty, neuroradiologist, MSK, and have really gone to the specialty type brand of radiology. The reason I'm talking here at the RSNA at Carestream in 2013 goes back to an article that I read written by Michael Brank-Zawatsky. It was published in January of 2013, and he compared radiology using the philosophy of existentialism and saying that we had really reached a quandary in our career, and the fact and the reality of it is with PACS we have isolated ourselves from our colleagues, we've isolated ourselves to a certain extent from one another, and we're struggling a little bit because there's a lot of forces out there that we can't control. We've got Affordable Care Act, we've got declining reimbursement, we've got a very competitive market where people, different groups are trying to maintain income, sometimes it seems at all costs, and are beginning to separate and fragment ourselves as a specialty. For all these reasons, we're trying to create a new identity and a new way of practicing, and for me, what I want to do is I want to be able to reconnect to my physicians, I want to be able to reconnect to my patients, and I want to take a more active role in the medical community because radiologists have been really isolated by the trends of the last 10 or 20 years, some of it self-inflicted and some of it not. I visited Israel back in June, and I visited with the R&D department at Carestream Imaging. And we talked about a lot of different things, but one of the presentations they made to me was a teleradiology presentation. And this really piqued my interest because I saw here in my group, which is multi-site, risk-driven teleradiology, a way to divorce myself from the risks, and more importantly, a way to really tie in the distribution in such a way that I'll be able to communicate with my doctors more effectively, disseminate the information that I have at my fingertips, and kind of try to rebuild that relationship that we had. And so as I pondered it for a couple of days, I made the proposal and said, hey, why don't we make Houston Medical Imaging a site for this teleradiology PACS-based reporting system? And it was with a little bit of trepidation, a little bit of nervousness, but we did proceed with the project. In short, we completed the migration over a period of 4 weeks with a final stage 3 incorporating the last 30 sites. And then we began as radiologists to use native-based reporting and distribution. And what I've done with this, and what I think is really critical, is all of a sudden we can work with different sites independent of the risk. We don't need to have an interface. The images can be sent to us, the order entry is made, and each order is tightly assigned to the radiologist, or to the referring physician, excuse me. By being able to control distribution, all of a sudden I can call my referring doctors, which we do, and say, hey, I looked at this case yesterday, we had it's a cancer of the lung, we've got metastatic lymph nodes, and I really want you to see it. And by quickly registering them with their username and password, we have a vehicle to share information. It's called Vue Motion. The vehicle's been here for a couple of years, but all of a sudden I'm engaging these docs, and they're looking at my images, and we're having those conversations. There's a couple of really interesting things that are coming up, and one is working with an accountable care organization. Large group of family practice docs, independent in the community, no real ties to radiologists or to hospitals, and all of a sudden we have a mechanism where we're going to be able to have a central repository for information. All of their studies can go to multiple imaging centers, they don't have to be my imaging centers. The images are sent, the orders are entered, and all of a sudden you've got a single group of radiologists who can reestablish communication with this group of doctors. Partly it's educative, partly it's just soulful, being able to communicate in a refreshing and engaging way. But not only are we going to reestablish the communication with those docs, all of a sudden the accountable care organization is going to have ways to monitor utilization, to educate different doctors on appropriateness and appropriateness criteria, to be able to distribute reports in a quickly and timely fashion that's going to impact patient care. So by being able to use this teleradiology project, it's starting to enhance my relationship with my referring doctors. It enhances my relationship with patients, and indeed, all of a sudden I'm being seen as a leader in this great change that is occurring in radiology. And radiologists need to get back out and be in the lead again and take control and educate. And at the end of the day, the net result is a much more enjoyable practice and a much more soulful practice. And that's how we regain that authentic identity that has been eroded over these past years.